My name is Morteza. I'm a PhD candidate at Concordia University. This is my fourth year. And I used to be an ERP consultant in Italy, enterprise resource planning consultant. So I have a couple of years of experience working with data, but I'm not a technical person. Now, when I was working in Italy, all the companies, they had problems with data management. And when I came to academia, I saw that the problem is the same. So hopefully this system intends to solve your problems with data management. Now, before I start, I just want to understand how many of you worked with some tools that I'm using in this system. How many, like Obsidian? How many of you use Obsidian? 2, 3? How many use Zotero? Okay. How many of you know about ResearchRabbit? Elicit? How many of you use Anki? Okay, great. Okay, so because we are gonna integrate all of these tools, okay? So that's the intention. And the main part of the system is Obsidian. Now, a couple of you know how to use Obsidian. Can you change the okay. Yeah, okay. So the main part of the system is Obsidian. Obsidian is a note-taking system, right? A note-taking software. What I've done is that it's not what I have done. I learned how to use it. I've integrated Obsidian with Zotero, which is our reference management, right, software. And Zotero can be simply integrated with ResearchRabbit. And ResearchRabbit is a search engine, like Google Scholar. Okay. Let's start with Obsidian. For those of you who are not familiar with Obsidian, this is the interface of Obsidian. And it's quite simple. I have some folders here, okay? As you can see, for example, I have my comprehensive examination folder in which there are all the notes and papers that I read in my comprehensive examination. So there are folders, subfolders. For example, this is a subfolder, and then in them I have notes, okay? So I can open a note, and a note will be something like this. But the good thing about Obsidian is that in Obsidian, I can make connection between my notes. So this is all my notes, each point represents a note, and you can see the connection between these notes. As you can see, some of the nodes are bigger, which means that these nodes have more connections. And for example, this one is social entrepreneurship, if I'm not mistaken. This is social entrepreneurship. As you can see, social entrepreneurship is one of my main subjects that I'm studying, right? So I read more about social entrepreneurship and I made connection with the node called social entrepreneurship. So now it's bigger, okay? It's a very simple process. This is my node called social entrepreneurship, which is one of the topics that I'm studying. And if I want to make connection with another node, simply I can use double bracket. By double bracket, I will have the list of all my nodes. And I can simply, for example, choose DART, which is a paper that I read, and it is about social entrepreneurship. And now you will have a connection in the graph between social entrepreneurship and the node called DART. The good thing about the graph is that I can search my papers, right? So for example, I can say, this is the node social entrepreneurship, and these are all the papers or concepts related to social entrepreneurship, okay? This is the node, and these are the other are all papers about social entrepreneurship. Now I can add filters. I can say that, okay, I am looking only for the theoretical papers. that are about social entrepreneurship, right? So by applying the filter, now I can have all the papers that are theoretical and are about social entrepreneurship. Is that clear so far? Do we have any questions?
Did you set when you read the paper, did you set that it was a theoretical paper? Or is it automatic that it knows that it's a theoretical?
That's a good question. When I was reading it on Zotero, I assigned a tag, which is the Apple tag.
Okay.
And it represents theoretical papers. And once I assigned it on my paper, on the article in Zotero, all the tags will be transferred here. Okay. So now Obsidian has so many other functionalities, but it's an introductory session, so I'm not going to get to them. I'm not going to explain them. Let's go to Zotero and see how these notes or annotations are transferred from Zotero to Obsidian. Okay? Because that's my intention, right? I'm reading. How many of you read your papers on Zotero? Okay, 4. And what are, like, the rest of you? What do you use?
Mendeley.
Mendeley? Okay.
GERAD.
What?
GERAD.
Never heard of it?
C'est pour bien le texte.
Okay. And then the rest are PDF. They open like PDF reader. And, yeah. And then when you highlight something, do you have a collection of those highlights? No? Do you copy and paste them on Word file? Do you do that? Okay. So this is gonna solve your problem. Because if I open Zotero, and I have a paper here. This is the paper. And I can start reading it, right? And as I'm reading it, I'm making highlights. For example, this was important for me. The other part was important for me. And some of us, we have some sort of like color coding highlights, right? I have a very simple system of color coding. So the yellow ones mean important arguments by the author, right? And then I would like to have also the headings of each section, right? Because when I transfer them into Obsidian, I want to know that these highlights belong to this section. Is that clear? So I highlight the titles with red, and I will see, and I will tell you why it's important. Hi. So this is a paper. I read it. I made comments on it, right? I can add comments to my highlights. For example, this highlight. I said that it is about identity. Okay, so I added some comment to the highlight. And now, since I read the paper, I can add tags to it, right? So this is the paper, and I can go to the tag section, and I can add some tags to it. For example, I can say that this paper is a theoretical paper, okay? Or this paper, I read it completely. So I'm using emojis, but emojis signify something for me. It's my tag taxonomy, okay? So Apple means theoretical paper. Now what I want to do is that I would like to transfer all my annotations and highlights and comments and tags into Obsidian, because Obsidian is my note-taking software, right? I want to have all my notes there. And usually people just copy paste each highlight and put it in Word. But here we can do it automatically. So all I need to do is to go to Obsidian. I have a folder called Zotero Annotations. And as you can see, this folder is quite empty. There is nothing in it except for another folder, which is called template, but that's not important. And I want to bring all my annotations from Zotero here in this specific folder. All I need to do is to use a shortcut. The author is Abid. So I select this paper, and you see that the file is created here by the name of the author and the year of publication. Okay, so I don't need to change anything. It's automatically there. Now let's go in the note or in the file to see what includes there. As you can see, I have the title of my note, my paper. Then I have all the metadata of the paper. And I have my tags. And right now, since I have my tags here, I can search based on these tags and find that paper. Then I have the abstract of the paper, okay? And they're all inserted automatically. Then I have all my highlights. You see, this is the highlight. This is the annotation that I made on Zotero. And this is the comment that I added to this annotation. So right now I have all my annotation and also all the comments, okay? And now I can simply say, okay, this paper is about social entrepreneurship. So I make a connection between this paper and social entrepreneurship. So later when I want to find the paper is about social entrepreneurship, then there is a link in my graph, okay? Do we have any question? Is it clear so far?
But you still write something in the new node, new social entrepreneurship node? No, is it important or not? Or
This one, this part?
Yeah, I was thinking social entrepreneurship was just a node, so you put nothing into it. No, do you have to still put something?
In the node called social entrepreneurship?
Yeah.
In the node called social entrepreneurship, I have the definition of social entrepreneurship. I can open it right now. You see, this is the node called social entrepreneurship, and I have the definition of social entrepreneurship there. So whenever I need the definition of social entrepreneurship, because definitions are important in academia, whenever I need the definition of social entrepreneurship, I can simply open the node called social entrepreneurship, and the definition is there, right? Yes.
And how about the social entrepreneurship?
I made it myself. I made a note and called it social entrepreneurship. To note, if I want to make a new note, it's so simple. I just need to click here. There you go. This is a new note, and I call it and can call it social enterprise, for example. And then I can start writing here whatever I want, right?
It's for the definition.
It's for the definition or whatever you want. You might want to write, I don't know, the literature review about social enterprise here. That's up to you. I put my definitions in the notes. So when I want to find a definition, I just simply open that note and that's there.
So other nodes with this main node.
It's simple, double bracket. Then I have the lists of all other nodes. For example, the paper that I brought here was called Abid. You remember? So if I just write Abid, the author was Abid, there you go. Now you see that the color of this text is changed. It's like a wiki link. It's called a wiki link. And it's like Wikipedia, right? So I made a connection between social enterprise and the node called Abid, right? Because that paper was about social enterprise. Now,
So you make this manually, but it's not something automatically.
there is an automatic solution to it, but I personally like to do it manually. It's just making simple connections. Like, you know that this paper is about social entrepreneurship, and I'm reading about social entrepreneurship. My main subject is social entrepreneurship. So I simply create a link, and creation of links are so simple, like double bracket, that's it, right? So when you hover over it, I have the paper, you see? Okay. So this is my paper. Now I have all my annotations, but imagine the situation that like 2 months later, you're going back to this paper and you want to read your annotations. And as you're reading, for example, you say that, okay, this part is important. And what I want to do is to go back to the original text, find the whole paragraph, and read it again. Does it make sense? Problem is here right now. So I want to go back to original text and find this section and read the whole page or the whole, I don't know, paragraph, okay? To do so, all you need to do is just use the link here. If I click here, Zotero opens, and it shows that the highlight is here. So I don't need to look for PDFs. I don't need to look in my collection on Zotero. I just simply can click on a link and it pops up.
I never used Zotero before, but I don't understand exactly how you put the PDF in Zotero. Because I can import the bibtext file, but then I don't know where to click to.
But you should bring the PDF as
directly
well.
in it.
Yes. If you drag PDF into it, the PDF will be there.
There's another way to, like, sometimes the tutorial itself will extract.
Yeah, it does it. And I'm gonna get there because it's gonna be, we're gonna talk about ResearchRabbit because that also simplifies the process. But if you have a PDF on your computer and you want to have it on Zotero, just simply drag it there. And also it finds the information for you, right? The metadata of the paper. Is that clear so far? Okay. So so far we talked about how to bring annotations from a paper in Zotero to Obsidian. Now, another functionality that is interesting, at least for me, is that I can code my highlights. For example, this annotation is about moral legitimacy, right? The next one is about identity. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm encountering the same paragraphs in different papers. So if I'm reading another paper, there might be another part of that paper in which the author is talking about identity or moral legitimacy, right? So what I wanted to do, I wanted to have all these annotations from different papers that are related to, for example, moral legitimacy in one file. Does it make sense? Then I have more or less all the literature about moral legitimacy in one file from different papers, the same thing for identity, the same thing for something else. Does it make sense what I want to do? So that's why I'm putting this, they're not tags, but comments here. Why? Because when I insert them into Obsidian, this is the paper, right? And this is my tag or the comment moral legitimacy. So if I open this file here, you can see that there are two papers or three papers. And in these three papers, there are some parts that are about moral legitimacy. So let's say I want to write a literature review about moral legitimacy. All I need to do is opening this file and look here, because these are all the texts that I read and they were about moral legitimacy. I have the quotations here. Does it make sense what I'm doing? And you can, after a while, when you are like coding your literature, you will have the same thing for different concepts. You want to talk about identity. You want to write a paragraph about identity. All you need to do is just opening the note called identity, and there will be all the highlights or annotations about identity there, right? For example, social entrepreneurship definition. I want to have different definitions of this concept, social entrepreneurship, and there you go. These are all the annotations from different papers that talk about the definition of social entrepreneurship. So if I want to write a paragraph about it, then I have all my annotations there, and I can simply write.
Have you ever tried Zotero or Obsidian on my iPad?
on iPad?
Yeah.
I know that it is possible, but I'm not sure if it's the premium version or not. I've never used it, but I know it's possible.
Yeah, so like some stuff about like annotating PDF directly within Zotero by linking on within your iPad and your Mac, so you can like highlight on your iPad, then import the highlights directly from Zotero and back them.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. I don't have an iPad, so I cannot help you with that. But
yeah, so basically you highlight on Zotero on the iPad.
Okay.
But then if you want to use Obsidian on your iPad, you have to use like a cloud service to have it, because everything is stored locally in your computer.
okay, do we have other questions?
Just one question. Okay, the literature codex, is it you that create? Have you created yourself the folder? Or no?
The folder, yes.
Okay.
So I made the folder, and when I was reading the literature, I saw that some people are talking about the definition of social entrepreneurship because there is disagreements. So it was important. Some people were talking about their identities, right? So I made these codes, and when I was reading the literature, I was like coding each annotations, right? Does it make sense what I did? Okay, if it's yes, add a comment. Yes, exactly. So here you see, I added a comment here, but I didn't. But I use it for coding, right? Just because we have qualitative coding in management. I don't want to mix it up with coding like Python. Does it?
Yeah.
Just adding a code there, yeah.
So I don't know how it aggregates all those papers with the definition of, for example.
How it does it?
Yeah, but this code it picks all those papers
Right.
that it has this content.
Yes, automatically. So you don't need to do anything. That part is automatic. So all you need to do is just put double bracket and then your code, which indicates what is that paragraph about. And then once you insert it in Obsidian, simply clicking on that, on moral legitimacy, you will have all the annotations together. Is that clear? Any other question? If there is no other question, then let's proceed, because I want to explain. So far we saw how Zotero, which is my reference management software, is connected to Obsidian, which is my note-taking software. Now, let's go a step behind and talk about literature review and how finding literature, right? What we do on Google Scholar, for example. And I think no one was familiar with ResearchRabbit. Am I correct? So ResearchRabbit does the same thing as Google Scholar. This is ResearchRabbit, and it has a very simple and friendly interface. As you can see here, I have different collections. For example, one of my collection is social entrepreneurship. So I put all the papers in social entrepreneurship in this collection. Does it make sense? So let's open the paper, the collection of social entrepreneurship. This is the collection. As you can see, I have different papers here. If I want to find a new paper, I just can simply use this add paper. Once I click on it, then I can search for different papers based on my keywords, okay? Let's look for a paper. Give me a keyword.
What?
Give me a keyword so I can find literature about. What are you working on?
Electrification.
What?
Electrification.
How can I write it?
ELE.
ELE. Like that?
With no, not with the E after the T.
E after the T.
Yeah.
So I want to find literature about electrification. And if I search, then there are the papers about electrification. Okay. So I can read them and say that, okay, I like this one. I added to my collection. This one as well. This is also good. And I add them to my collection. So what happens here is that now I'm adding them in this folder, which is called examples for workshop. And I guess I should be able to find them here. You see, electrification America. Then what is different about ResearchRabbit is that, okay, I found an interesting paper, which is this one. And ResearchRabbit enables me to find similar works, right? I have similar works there. So if I want to find similar works, I click here, and there you go. These are all the similar works of the paper that we were interested in. Now you go through the list of the similar works and you say that, okay, this one is also interesting, okay? You click on that and you can add it to your collection if you want, okay? But I can also look for the similar works of the second paper, which is this one, right? Does it make sense what we are doing? So the second paper has also similar works. There you go. These are the similar works of the second paper. Now I can go through them, find an interesting one, and say that, okay, this one is also interesting. Let's see what are the similar works of this one. And that's a rabbit hole that you go into.
And how are you sure that the rabbit, better rabbit,
ResearchRabbit.
ResearchRabbit is not missing something?
Well, I cannot, I don't know if there might be missing some paper, but the idea is that, okay, at least I have some papers that are similar to the other one, and I can go through them and find the interesting ones. And as I said, you can add them to your collection as you go, right? As you go through this rabbit hole, you can add new papers. And the interesting part is that ResearchRabbit is connected to my Zotero. My Zotero is my reference management software, right? So if I go back to Zotero, then what happens is that if I open I will explain it to you what it is. But yeah, I'm sorry for that, but I will explain it to you. So here is the folder, which is called examples for workshop. And as you can see, my papers about electrification that I added, they are here. Okay, so I don't need to do anything. It goes back to your question, right? Now, the Sci-Hub thing that you saw is an add-on on Zotero, which I disabled, but I don't know why it showed it. And that Sci-Hub add-on will find also the PDF for you. So you don't need to look for the PDF. And I don't encourage you to do so, but that's a possibility that you can do, right? So as you're adding paper on ResearchRabbit, not only you will have the reference and the metadata here, but also the PDFs, okay? But the morality of it is upon you, the responsibility. If you want to use Sci-Hub or not, that's another thing. Is that clear what we did so far? So for example, this paper had the PDF available. It was open access probably. And if I open it, that's the paper that I added on ResearchRabbit. And right now, simply I can open it and start reading it, making highlights, adding comments to my annotations or highlight. and then bringing them into Obsidian. Do we have questions? No? So everything is much simpler here. All you need to do is just adding paper on ResearchRabbit and you will have it there. Okay. Now, there is a step behind it here. We can use elicit as well. I will also talk about that. How many people use elicit? No one? So elicit is also a platform that is used for finding papers, but it uses AI and it has a semantic type of finding. So it looks for the meaning of what you ask. And here in elicit, you can simply write your research question. And once you write your research question, it gives you the different papers related to your research question. For example, I can say, are social entrepreneurs moral? So let's imagine this was my research question. And as you can see, it tries to answer my research question. There will be a paragraph. And then you will have the papers about the research question that you searched about. You see, this is a very related paper. It's about morality and social entrepreneurship. And what I can do is that so I might have some papers that I missed that ResearchRabbit missed, let's say, okay? I couldn't find these papers on ResearchRabbit, but I can insert them in ResearchRabbit. So let's say I select these papers, these are interesting for me, and then I can create a BIP file out of that. So I have the BIP file of these papers. Now, this creating BIP file is a premium functionality of elicit. So if you want to be able to do this, so you need to pay for that. But then what you can do is to go to ResearchRabbit, open the collection. Here, add paper, BIP text. You select the BIP file that you created. And there you go, there are the papers. Now I can add them on my ResearchRabbit. And what happens is that as I'm adding them on ResearchRabbit, my papers will be all transferred or downloaded in my Zotero, right? So I don't need to look for them anymore. That's it, right?
But is there not a risk to erase your papers where there are annotations?
There are annotations?
Well, I suppose, okay, on your PDF, you're writing some stuff. And after that, you import them on
Obsidian?
No.
It's
in eventuality, just erase your papers.
No, why should you erase my paper?
Oh, I was thinking maybe there was some kind of connection between Zotero and ResearchRabbit.
No, these are my new papers, right? So I don't have, I'm adding them to ResearchRabbit because I don't have them. Is it clear? I don't have them on my ResearchRabbit. So I'm adding them here and I don't have them on my Zotero. These are new papers. I'm doing literature review. I'm looking for new papers.
Okay.
So I used elicit, right? And it gives me new papers. I added them on ResearchRabbit and ResearchRabbit automatically add them to my Zotero.
Okay.
Do you have other questions? So we have elicit, ResearchRabbit, Zotero, Obsidian. Now, let's talk a little bit about another software. I don't know, you might be interested in or not. It's called Anki. So a problem that I had was that there are like so many new concepts when I'm reading the literature, and I want to remember the definitions of these concepts and the concepts themselves, right? These are important because when I want to talk, I need to use that concept. And I also need to be able to define them, right? That's academia, right? Now, okay, as I told you, for example, I have a note in my Obsidian, which is called social entrepreneurship, and the definition of social entrepreneurship is there, right? So what I wanted to do was to remember social entrepreneurship and its definition. Or for example, another word, compassion. I wanted to remember the definition of compassion, the scientific definition. How can I solve that problem? How can I remember that word? I guess some of you use Anki. Anki is a spaced repetition system. So it helps you to repeat new words or new concept based on a specific pattern, which helps you to remember them by the least number of repetitions, right? So this is the most effective way to remember a new concept and transfer it from your short-term memory to long-term memory. And since I have all my concepts in Obsidian, there is a way to make connection between Anki, which is a spaced repetition system, and my Obsidian. So right now I can bring all my important concepts into Anki and start repeating them until I memorize them. Does it make sense? What was the problem and how it was solved? So let's say I have main concepts. There is a deck there called main concepts. If I open them and says that, okay, do you want to study? Yes, I want to study. What is moral reasoning? What is the definition of moral reasoning? So if I remember the definition of moral reasoning, then I said that, okay, show answer, the definition is here. And I can check if I was right or wrong. And then I can say, okay, it was good. Show me the same card in 2 days, right? And as you proceed, the interval of repetition increases, right? And that helps you to memorize it with the least number of repetition. And where does this file come from? It comes from my Obsidian and is automatically connected. So I don't need to create new files and stuff on Anki. I can simply do it through my Obsidian. Now, this is not something that many people are interested in, but if you have like important concepts that you want to remember, that can be a solution. And it can be connected to Obsidian. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about, is there any question?
I have a little bit confusion about the setup of Obsidian. How does it work exactly about the extensions that you are installing or the folders, color tagging, taxonomy?
Okay. That's a good question.
If I install this software now, will you provide it with all of this?
So the point is that since it's an introductory session, we are not going to get into details of how to work with Obsidian, right? Or what are the different plugins that you can add. I can simply show you, but if you are interested in this system and you want to work with it, then we can have some like follow-up sessions, okay? So I can try to explain how it works, what you can do, what are the other functionalities. For example, because there are so many things we can talk about, that's why, and our time is limited, so I'm just trying to introduce the main things. For example, if you are consuming, if you are consuming media, you can embed your media in your notes in Obsidian. So this
topic that is so close to my heart as doing qualitative analysis with archival data, as this is really kind of, I think,
a YouTube discussion about archival data that I was interested in, and I can embed it in my notes, right? And then I can start taking notes from the video. So these are my notes from the video. And as you can see, I have like reference to their exact time. So if I click on here, so here the speaker is talking about archival data analysis, definition of archival data. If I want to go to that specific
also
time, There you go.
Old. So when we talk about archival qualitative analysis, it's the analysis of textual choices that actors, people, organizations.
Right? So I can also consume media and take notes from media. Then you can embed as well your audio files. Do we have any other question? I guess you had a question? No?
There was just clarifying how N-key flashcards are used just for memorizing concepts and ideas that
Yes.
you create in Obsidian, then you link Obsidian to N-key.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the only function of it, just for memorizing stuff. So. Is
there like Obsidian community plugins to create a flashcard directly into Obsidian without using Anki?
Yes, so without using Anki.
Yeah.
There is also a plugin that is designed for a space repetition within Obsidian. You can just install it and use it. I've never used it, but I know that there is a specific plugin for that.
So the Anki one of the Obsidian. So you will answer the questions inside the Obsidian and no longer.
I guess so. I didn't use that plugin, but I think that the setup is somehow within. It makes it like you will repeat your notes inside Obsidian.
Is that when you connect Anki to Obsidian, what is the functionality of Obsidian here? Does it take the exam for you, like to take the card, read the card for you, or no?
The functionality of Obsidian is that first I have all my notes there, right?
Yeah.
So if I don't want to use Obsidian itself, then I need to go to Anki, create a new flashcard, then copy the content of that definition, right, into that flashcard. You see what I'm saying? So it takes time. So for each concept, I need to create a new flashcard manually. But with Obsidian, I can simply convert the definition that I have already stored in Obsidian automatically as flashcards in Anki.
From Obsidian, you take the notes and take it.
Right. So from Obsidian, it's transferred into Anki.
I see a problem to insert notes or files from Zotero to Obsidian.
Well, there is a plugin for that.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, those are the issues that if we have follow-up sessions, we can discuss about them and solve the problems, right? Because right now, if we get into that, then there are like other concepts, other important functionalities that will be missed. So let's talk a little bit about AI and ChatGPT and how can I use it inside Obsidian. How many of you know about Whisper? But I guess it doesn't, you won't need it that much. Whisper is for transcription of interviews. Now in management, we do interviews and we transcribe them and we analyze them. I guess you don't need that, right? Here. So, but Whisper is an AI power platform that does it, right? Here we have the same thing. We have Whisper. Like Whisper can be used inside Obsidian. For example, I can start recording what I'm saying. And the Whisper plugin in Obsidian starts transcribe. When I stop the recording, the Whisper plugin should transcribe what I've said. And let me try it. So I recorded what I said, and this is my recording. And there you go. This is the transcription of what I said. And as you can see, it's quite accurate, right? So you can have the transcription of your audio files or recording, or record yourself and then have the transcription. So this is one. And then you can have ChatGPT chatbot inside Obsidian. Now, the problem with ChatGPT itself is that when you ask a question from ChatGPT, it goes and finds its own resources, right? Its own sources. So you don't have much control about the sources that it used, right? It might cite papers that you've never read or you are not interested in. And also, you have validation problem in the sense that, okay, it's citing a paper that I've never read, so I don't know if it is accurate or not, right? Now, wouldn't it be beautiful if we have that chatbot into Obsidian? Because right now I have all my notes, annotations inside Obsidian, right? So what if we can have that chatbot inside Obsidian and ask ChatGPT to write something based on my notes that I've collected so far? And there is the possibility for that. So this is ChatGPT chatbot. And I can ask questions based on my notes. For example, based on the notes, SE definition. This is the note that I collected all the highlights about the definition of social entrepreneurship. Write 2 paragraphs about the definition of social entrepreneurship. And then I say use in-text citations. There you go. You've got your literature review. And it's using your sources. These are the papers that I read. I'm citing those papers. Do you have any question?
This one is another plugin.
Plugin, yes. It's a plugin that makes connection between ChatGPT, OpenAI, APIs.
And it only searches between the things that you have in Obsidian, or it can go beyond?
It uses its own knowledge, but I specifically said that, okay, go to this file, SE definition, and this is one of my codes. You remember I was like putting comments in my annotation. One of them was SE definition, which was referring to the definition of social entrepreneurship. So in this file, I have all the annotations about the definition of social entrepreneurship from different authors. I can open it for you right now. You see, these are all my annotations from different papers that are related to the definition of social entrepreneurship. So if I want to write a paragraph about the definition of social entrepreneurship, it makes sense to say, okay, go to this file and read the annotations and write a paragraph. No, but you need to get the APIs. Do you know about APIs and stuff? Well, we'll explain it in follow-up sessions if we have.
What's the name of plugin?
It's called the plugin Smart Connection.
I was wondering which one is free, like
all these things are free. All of them are free. The point is that with Elicit, if you want to create that big file that I showed you, you remember that? That's paid for that functionality. this is also using the API of OpenAI. So it takes it, you will pay for that based on your input token and output token.
Okay. Even if you have ChatGPT-4.
ChatGPT-4 is something else. We don't use that. We use APIs.
I assume if you import a file into Obsidian and then you go back to Zotero and make changes into the file, it's not going to update it in Obsidian. Right?
No, you need to insert it again.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's say I want to make a table about the characteristics of social entrepreneurs, right? I can say, based on the notes, create a table about the characteristics of social. So you don't need to look into, you don't need to search that much into your notes. You have an interactive system in which you can talk with all the knowledge that you collected so far, right? You can ask questions about your annotations or comment that you've already done. As you see, just it made a table about the different characteristics of these individuals. There is the description and there is the citation. And citations are exactly the paper that I read. Okay, I'm gonna stop it because it cost me money. But you got the idea, right?
So how did you list all in the literature codex, the tags, okay, all the annotation that you extracted from the PDF?
How do I list them?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I wrote a plugin for Obsidian that does that.
And you get it to write a
ChatGPT, I don't know about coding. Like ChatGPT, I asked ChatGPT to write the plugin and it wrote it for me and it works. Yep. If you want me to show it. So you see this sample plugin. If I go to community plugins, see this sample plugin here in the description. It's written, this plugin is developed by Morteza. You see that's what I've done. It's so simple. I don't know coding, and that's one of the beauty of Obsidian and ChatGPT, because imagine you have a workflow and then you want to personalize it. You need a functionality that Obsidian by current plugins doesn't do that. Then you have the option to write a plugin for yourself and solve the problem. Do you have any question? Well, that was pretty much all what I wanted to talk about. There are other functionalities, obviously. There are other plugins, right, that you can add and you can use them. But I guess.
Do you have any big plugins that you would recommend?
Big.
It seems that it's the core component of Obsidian.
One of them is a smart connection, which is using ChatGPT. For using ChatGPT, then the popular ones are depending on your needs. For example, Data View is one of the most famous plugins, but I just used it for a specific project, but I needed to write in queries and find specific information. So that one is good. What I'm using right now is the good ones are Obsidian to Anki if you want to use Anki. Then my plugin is one of the best plugins you can find. Zotero integration is one of the most important ones. It's the one that connects Zotero to Obsidian. Then
excuse me, is there any way to have all this set up at once when I just install Obsidian and I want to start with this setup?
I can give you all my setups.
That's the thing.
Yeah, so if I share with you, because I made a sort of a standard vault in which I have all my setups. So you don't need to worry about how to integrate Zotero to Obsidian. They're all set there in that vault, and I just need to share it with you. But again, if we have follow-up sessions, I can share it with you and I can explain how you can use it, and we can try to make it work for all of you if you're interested. But that would be simple. It's not that difficult. So you don't need to look for plugins or doing setups. I can help you with that as well. Okay, then. And obviously you can export from your notes into PDF or Word. So that wouldn't be also a problem. Like you need Pandoc for that, right? That's a plugin that you might be using. Okay, if there is no other question, I won't take your time. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. You're welcome.